systematic persecution of Christian minorities in India is real. A village prayer meeting is interrupted. A pastor is accused of forced conversion. A school that has served the poor for decades is suddenly treated not as a public good, but as a suspect institution. Charities that built classrooms and clinics and hostels with lawful donations are told that if its registration collapses, the state may seize not only its funds, but the very assets that sustain its mission. These are not isolated incidents. It's systematic and it's sophisticated. I submit that the committee needs to recognize that the persecution of Christians and the Christian minority in India is becoming increasingly systematic. And the pressure is not coming just from one direction. It's developed through the law, the bureaucracy, political rhetoric, and mob action, and they all reinforce each other. First, the state is moving to cut off funding and create a pathway for seizing property through amendments to the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, or FCRA. This was once presented as a law that would regulate foreign donations. It's now being used in ways that can strip Christian ministries, charities, dioceses, and schools of the assets they lawfully built over many years and in many cases decades. If registration is canceled, surrendered, or simply allowed to lapse through opaque renewal decisions, the government can claim power over the funds and the infrastructure created from those funds. It's not a regulation, it is the use of administrative power to make faith-based service institutions permanently vulnerable. And the Indian Ministry of Home Affairs reports that over 20,000 of all NGO FCRA licenses have been canceled as of November of 2024. Secondly, anti-conversion laws are criminalizing freedom of conscience. These laws are presented as protections against force or fraud, but in reality, they place the state between the person and their faith and convictions. They require burdensome pre-conversion and pre-conversion notifications. They invite police scrutiny into spiritual decisions. They create legal jeopardy for pastors, teachers, and Christian workers simply for sharing their beliefs or walking next to someone who's chosen to change their faith. A government that demands it be notified, or that after a change of a chosen religion or faith, is ridiculous. It's no longer protecting religious freedom, it's supervising conscience. In March of this year, two astonishing new anti-conversion laws that were called in adjustment to 14 other laws. For example, when launched in Chhattisgarh, the police chief, Arun Dev Gautam, bizarrely claimed that Christians were the biggest emerging security threat in his state, despite the fact that Christians are only 2% of the state of Chhattisgarh. The new law defines mass conversion as 2 or more people, and it requires converts to give a 60-day notice with fellow citizens invited to object about this personal decision, and the convert must subject themselves to police inquiry. And if they're found, and those found guilty of mass conversions face a maximum penalty of life imprisonment. This is all happening in a state where Christians, as I said, are 2% of the state's 30 million residents, and where Hindu nationalists hold aggressive coming home conversion rituals for tribals converting to Hinduism. Thirdly, the laws are being used to suppress the transmission of faith itself, including to the next generation. When ordinary Christian ministries can be defined as inducement, fraud, or coercion, then prayer meetings or catechisms, pastoral counseling, children's teaching, or service to the poor all become vulnerable, and the result is that faith minorities are surrounded, and they're told in effect that they only can exist in silence, without growth, without witness, without passing their convictions on to family or community life. Fourthly, the legal and political environment has encouraged mob violence. When public officials and activists reportedly portray Christians as suspect, foreign, or predatory, it creates social license for intimidation. Churches are attacked, pastors are arrested or beaten, Christians gatherings are disrupted, schools and institutions that have served the wider public for decades are targeted. And that's why I believe the committee should see these developments as interconnected. The committee should speak clearly. No state should be allowed to use financial regulation as a weapon against a minority faith community. No government should place itself between a human being and the freedom to change its religion or faith. No society should tolerate laws that punish peaceful religious transmission while excusing intimidation or violence. And no democracy should allow ministries, churches, or schools to be silenced by a fusion of bureaucratic power and street-level coercion. So thank you so much.